Hi, everybody. I am so excited to kick off this episode with the incredible Dallas Travers. Dallas, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm thrilled. So Dallas and I met a few years ago. I've been following you ever since then, Dallas. I love everything you do. You bring a lot of integrity and your values are really clear in everything that you do online, and you're just a really stand-up business person. And so I really admire you, and I'm just really thrilled to have you and be able to open the door to asking you some questions so that everybody who's listening can get a little insight into all of the strategies and incredible knowledge you have. So thanks.
Thank you for that.
No problem. So for everybody who's listening, if you want to give them the short version of, who you are and what you do. And everybody, before we hit the record button, I wanted to just know when Dallas started her business, because I knew that she'd been doing this for a long time and started off by helping actors and was like an acting, or I shouldn't say an acting coach, because you were a coach for helping actors build their acting businesses, right? And land agents and stuff like that. And it's been 20 years that you have been doing this kind of work, which is pretty incredible, especially in the online digital marketing world, where it feels like nobody really has been doing this for that long. So that's pretty cool. So give everyone a quick version of the Dallas story.
Has the internet even been around that long?
I know. When I tell people I started a blog in 2010, I feel like a dinosaur,
Right? Yeah. All right. So the quick version is, my first business was, helping actors, essentially teaching them entrepreneurial skills. And I landed into that job because I was recruited by a talent agency, I'm using air quotes here, to come down and work for them. I was living in Washington State. I didn't know anything about the entertainment industry. It sounded like a good job. My mom thought it sounded very sketchy, and she was totally right. So this was one of those fake talent agencies that would promise you 1 million bookings and all the fame and fortune in the world as long as you paid their photographers for headshots. And then they'd get this money for headshots and you'd never hear from them again. I share that because I was just so naive at the time. I didn't realize that not all people lead with their values. And that's been just a core pillar in my life. And I just use my values as a way to make every decision in my life. And you know what? Sometimes the decisions are hard, but making them is always really easy. Right. So I was not going to admit to my mom that she was right. So I just stayed in LA and figured out what the heck I was going to do. But I started a marketing service to help actors legitimately find representation. That ended up being super successful. And then the evolution began, right, Gemma? Where people started asking me career advice and even like life coachy kind of stuff. And having no baggage around the entertainment industry, my advice really worked because I was just like coming up using my creative intelligence, right? So I got my life coaching certification and transitioned into courses. I was first coaching actors and then courses, and that business was super successful. And the evolution continued where other coaches started to seek me out and ask me, can you show me how to do that thing you just built? And that's when I started mentoring other coaches. I feel like that's where I can have the most impact, especially coaches who aren't business coaches. There's a lot of training from business coaches to other business coaches who then coach other business coaches.
A weird cesspool.
Right, completely. And my program is really for coaches who have been in those other programs and feel like, wait, am I doing something wrong? Am I the only one here who doesn't coach business coaching? So we're like a group of misfits. And my philosophy is lead with your values first and build your business out in layers. And that's how you can have a 20-year-old business and have it still be relevant and profitable and meaningful when you focus on building it out in layers. So
yeah, I love that. We're also, I don't know if I'd call us a bunch of misfits in my world. However, a huge cross-section of niches and industries, which I think is so cool because we can often learn so much from what other people are doing when we and see, oh, well, that really worked in, that nutrition niche. Like, I wonder how that could apply over here to me in parenting or, whatever that looks like. So
Mhm.
I love that, like that diversity.
Yeah. And it also allows us all to have agency and take an idea and truly make it our own instead of take that thing we learned and slap a new name on it and teach it as our own. So
totally. And I also am a big believer in like, go out, learn all the strategies, learn from tons of people, test them, apply them, see how they feel with you and your business. And then shed the stuff that's not working for you and just take the things that really felt great and worked and run with that and create your own version. It doesn't always have to be so cookie cutter. And I sometimes even me, like I struggle with that as a creator of programs because I want to give you the most effective, fast method so that you can just like get there. But sometimes I got to teach you a lot of stuff to like get you to that place, because there's not just always one option.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing, Dallas, that I know people would just love to hear you talk about, because I think you're such an expert at it, is client acquisition and growing our roster of clients in the early days of our business. And you and I both agree and talk to our audience about this, that before you go and create a group program or a course or any kind of one-to-many offer, it's so important to test it with one-to-one clients first. There's so much learning that happens when you work one-on-one with people, and you can create a better program and have more confidence when you come out sort of from that kind of direction. But landing those initial one-on-one clients can be so hard for people. And so I would love to spend our episode today kind of talking about some of your methods that you teach to your audience about how to really do that. So I'm going to turn it over to you to start where you want to start instead of like leading the conversation in any way.
Sure. Yeah. We're in agreement. I think that there are 1,000,001 reasons to focus on private client acquisition first if your goal is course creation. And one of them that I think often gets overlooked is if you cannot enroll a client in a one-to-one sales conversation, good luck converting on a webinar or a 5-day challenge or anything that's scaled.
Right.
So it's, yes, the intimacy, working with clients to road test what's going to be inside of your course, but also your sales process.
Totally.
So I am a big fan of not advertising unless I absolutely have to. And again, your ads aren't going to work if you can't bring in clients organically. It all starts with the unsexy, unscalable marketing steps that then set the framework for scaling, right?
Could not agree more.
Yeah. So the first step in private client acquisition for me is creating a rock solid word of mouth marketing funnel.
Okay.
So anybody listening who thinks, oh, here we go, now you're going to ask me to invite my friends and family into a free coaching session. That's not what we're doing. So don't leave us quite yet.
Right.
So what I recommend is let's actually start with just a little bit of arithmetic. All right.
Okay.
So I'm all about data instead of drama. So if I can focus on the numbers, it can help me stay more consistent. So I'm just going to assume that most course creators starting out with private client acquisition, you're going to have about a 25% conversion rate in your discovery sessions or sales conversations.
Right.
So if you want to bring in, now I have to do math in front of people on the fly. If you want to bring in 5 private clients, right? 5 is 25% of how many? 25. All right. 20 or do the math, Gemma.
25%. 5 out of 20 is 25%.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good. I'm glad someone here is paying attention. So what I have found with referral marketing is it usually shakes out to be the number of requests you make for referrals ends up being the number of referrals you get. Some people will send you 0 referrals, and then other people will send you 5 or 6 or 7. So we want to first look at how many clients do I want to bring in, multiply that number by 0.25, right? So if I want 5 clients, I need to make 20 referral requests.
Right.
Now, The secret with referral requests is to create a cause. So create an event around it. Because I think for a lot of coaches in particular, of course we want referrals, but we think we're not in charge of that, right? They either come or they don't, and we cross our fingers. And what that does is eat away at our confidence, because I can't sit down at my computer today and generate leads. I have to wait for them to come by accident. But when you create a cause, you can generate leads on demand.
So what do you mean by a cause? Let's explain that.
What's the point of your referral request? So have you just narrowed your niche and you want to really make sure that it lands with the clients you most want to serve? Did you just turn 40 and you want to celebrate your birthday? Is it the beginning of Q4 and you want to celebrate that? It doesn't have to be anything earth-shattering, but there needs to be an excuse or a point for you to reach out.
Got it.
Right? So we're going to create a cause, and that cause is, I've been a massage therapist for years, and now I want to actually help. And because I'm a new mom, I want to help moms learn how to give their newborns infant massage. Right? I'm making that up on the fly,
Sure.
but great. That's enough of a cause. So now we think of 20 people, right? And 5 communities where we can present our cause. So just make a list of people that you know, and they're not your friends and family. It's kind of like how we met, Gemma. We met at a weekend event and maybe said 5 words to each other, but we were in the room together and there was definitely a vibe, right?
Right.
So you would go on my list. We all know more people than we think.
That's so true.
So I want to challenge everyone, come up with a list of 20 people. And what we're not doing is deciding, do all 20 of these people know mothers of newborns? We can't know that information. So we just ask. This in and of itself is a way to gather data around your messaging. Because if you reach out to 20 people and say, I've just narrowed my niche and I want to help newborn moms learn infant massage, so I'm gifting 20 coaching sessions in the next 20 days to moms of infants. Do you know anyone? Right? So the cause is, here's the reason, here's the number of sessions I'm giving away, right? And it's 20 sessions to 20 people. And then the question is simply, I don't know if you know anyone, but I wanted to share this and ask if you would be open to sharing this announcement with your community. Yeah. Some people are going to ignore you. Some people will say, I don't know any newborn moms, right? Others will say, oh, this is so exciting. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And their answer is not a reflection of our value, right? We're just presenting an invitation. Now, I will say, if no one responds, that is information. And what that's telling you is your message is unclear.
Yeah.
Which is why I recommend that the request be time sensitive, right? In the next 20 days, specific around a number of sessions you want to gift and who they're specifically for.
And are you in that email putting like a link to go book the call?
No.
Okay.
Great question.
This is good.
Right. Because, well, I call it getting a buy-in, right? We want to help people feel as invested as possible. So we get permission first before sending the link.
Yeah.
So the request is like, if you know someone, please reply back and I'll send along some cut and paste language that you can easily forward.
Right.
And if you don't know anyone or you're just not that into this, no problem. Just let me know that too.
Yeah.
So then once people buy in, you send them written in their, literally so they can cut and paste it. So you're writing it in their voice, something that they can share on social, a super quick text messaging version, and then something for email as well.
Love that.
And then again, so the language is, thank you so much. My event, right, or my 20 days starts on Monday. So if you can get this sent out before then, that would be amazing. And then I've included some cut and paste language below.
And for people who are thinking like, okay, Dallas, that sounds great. I don't know if I know 20 people outside of maybe my like immediate friend and family circle.
Mm-hmm.
What suggestion would you give to those people beyond maybe, I know one thing I've done in the past is like simply going onto social media and looking back at who you follow. And sometimes you're like reminded of connections that you've made in the past that you might have forgotten about. But are there other ways in which you suggest people think about how to broaden that network?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the suggestions is what you just mentioned. We have to go back into our digital history a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be your email address book. That can be any events you've attended, right? Like sometimes I'll go back into my albums on my phone and like look up that event I was at last April. Oh, right, Lisa, I forgot I met Lisa at that event. And then we'll get to organizations in a second, or communities. And then sometimes the request is slightly different. So let's just say you can't think of anyone other than your sister, right? So you would reach out to your sister and say, listen, I'm trying to think of 20 people I could send this to, right? Do you know anyone that you could connect me with who I could send this to?
Yeah.
But I want to also talk about online communities. So I could look up Facebook groups for new moms,
Mm-hmm.
right? Join, and you want to be really mindful, everybody, of the group's guidelines. We're not just spamming people, right? But join the group, engage for a few days, and pay attention to those people who you really feel like, I could help this person.
Mm-hmm.
A free session with me could honestly make a difference in their lives. And then you can DM them to invite them in directly.
Yeah. Love that.
But what I find, and I am an introvert. I love being at home. I wouldn't say that I have a big network at all. And if I had to sit down and make a list of 20 people, I could do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think also especially if you're newer in business, opening yourself up to this idea of like, start attending events. I know we're recording this during the time of COVID, but there are events even virtually happening all the time. And you maybe just need to start to explore how you can get more connected and start being a little more visible and making those connections, because you are going to be so much more successful if you start, weaving that web of connections and making it bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that you suddenly have to have this big social media presence or put yourself
Absolutely
out
not.
there. In fact, one way that I practice getting connected is, there are people who I follow on Instagram because I respect them and I like their content and I learn from them.
Mm.
You can create connections to the other people who are commenting on that leader's content. So you don't have to leave your house, right? You don't have to, there's no big production here, but just, we have more digital connections than we're aware of. So sitting down to really identify what those are is super helpful.
Yeah. And if you are, someone was talking to me about this the other day, if you are in programs of any kind, like let's say you paid to be a part of a program and you've been someone who's, let's say you take in a lot of information, but you're quieter, like you don't necessarily comment on anything, or you never show up to the calls, you're never in the group. Well, if you just made an effort to start being a little bit more of like a superstar in the groups that you're already a part of, it's amazing what can come from that. Like, I might be in a business group with someone else, but if I know that they are doing something totally different and my sister-in-law just had a baby, like to your point about the infant massage, like I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, like they would actually be great. Or even students in my own program, the ones who are the most like visible within our community. One teaches about hospital births. Well, I'm sending her to everyone I know who's pregnant.
Right.
And so just being a little bit louder in the communities you're a part of can be a great first step too.
Yeah. Completely. And maybe the bar of being a superstar in the group is too high. Like be a C plus
Sure.
student,
Sure.
right? Just like get a C plus in class and be consistent, right?
Yeah, and I don't even mean being a superstar in terms of like doing all the work and getting the biggest, best results. I just mean showing up and like answering people's questions, making those connections, letting people know what it is that you do, giving people updates on what's going on with you, that type of thing.
Yeah. And I also I can't make a strong enough case for this word of mouth marketing funnel, because the thing that will always surprise you, and this is something I teach inside of my program, the people who you think are easy yeses often are the people who do not respond to your request, right? And we don't take offense to that. Like we can't know what's going on with them. But then there are people who will surprise you and they want to champion your work. If these are people who even like you a little bit, right? To have the opportunity to be of service and be support and gift something that's helpful to someone else.
That's right.
They're all in. So we have to think a little bit less about ourselves in making these requests and more about the cause, right? And the work. And I just want to encourage everyone to try it, because it's the simplest way to bring in perfect match paying first clients.
And so when you, let's take it a little further now in terms of the concept of like getting those 20 discovery calls that are gifted. The idea of those calls is obviously to land those 5 paying clients. So those gifted sessions, tell us a little bit more about what that would look like.
Great. So we're going to plant a seed for the sale. I call it an invitation, several times. The first is in the message you send to people, I call them referral ambassadors, right? Drop in a little PS, right? PS, this session is 100% free. I'm sure that if you want to take it further, Dallas will give you the opportunity to do so. So we've just planted that seed. Right? In your intake form. So your referral ambassadors will send this message out. It will have a link to schedule time with you. When I book that session, the intake form will have a version of, at the end of this session, if I feel like one of my programs could really help you XYZ, I will invite you to take this work further. Are you okay with that? And so it just helps people, again, buy in and understand what to expect. And then this is the most important piece. It's how you set the free coaching session up at the beginning. Number 1, assume that people are there because they need help solving the problem you solve. They're there because they want to. They're there because and everybody knows their problems can't be solved in 1 hour or 45-minute conversation. So I call it assuming the yes, right? They're there because they want to be, not because it's free. Number 2, we set the sale up at the very beginning of the call as well, right? So, all right, I'm so glad you're here and we're going to work on A, B, and C. I promise at the end of our conversation to reserve some time to talk with you about how I work with people in an ongoing way, just to help you decide if you want to take this further. So now I'm accountable. Darn it. Now I have to sell at the end of this session because I just told you I was going to. Yeah. And so I find over and over again, it's just a smooth transition. And there will definitely be some people who are there because they want the free session, right? Sure. And there will be 25% of those people who leap at the opportunity to work with you.
And once you've done those first 2 things in the beginning of the call, then is it opening up to questions that they have, or are you going in it with a fairly prescriptive idea of what you're going to talk about?
Good question. So I break discovery sessions into 4 phases. Okay. The first phase is setting the stage, right? So that's where we're assuming the yes. We set a really clear agenda for how the call will unfold, right? And we plant a seed for the sale. Then we move into assessing, right? So I teach infant massage. Tell me more about why this would be helpful to you and your family. So we're gathering information about this person's obstacles, goals, and needs. Then we move into actually coaching. So this is a little controversial. There are a lot of people who teach sales conversations that they said, don't ever coach. That's what people have to pay for. And I think, how on earth are you supposed to sell coaching to someone if they don't experience coaching?
Yeah.
Also, I work with coaches. They love coaching. They don't love selling. So coach, please coach people in these free coaching sessions.
It's the same, and it's the same idea people have about like, you know, do I give it all away in my content or like on a webinar? Am I really supposed to be teaching? I'm of the mindset, show people what it's like to learn from you or work with you. And don't worry about giving things away, because ultimately the people who were destined to work with you are listening into that, being blown away by what you have to say. And it's a really easy buying decision for them because they've seen a glimpse of what's to come. It's not just smoke and mirrors.
Completely, right? So in that coaching phase, how I usually move into it is reflecting back. Okay, you talked about infant massage. Your baby is a little colicky and you're hoping that this helps calm the baby or helps with digestion. Which one would you like to get started on today? Right? I could teach you this. We're recording audio, but I'm like doing massage moves right now for Gemma. So I'm so glad this is not on video, right? So we could talk about A, B, or C. Which one would you like to get started on? And then you're spending 15 or 20 minutes coaching that person, moving them, not solving all their problems, but moving them toward a transformation so they know what's possible. And then we shift into the invitation. Right? Summarizing what you went through in that call, identifying next steps, and describing really clearly how your program, your private coaching package can help them move forward. Yeah. And then I want to share the most powerful sales tip after planting the seed at the beginning of the conversation. And that is the way you present the invitation. I'd like to invite you to become a client, and then be quiet. Don't talk about the pricing or how many sessions they get or all of this other distracting information. The client, you should feel tension. The client should also feel tension. That's what we naturally feel inside of ourselves before we make a commitment to change. So over-informing, right? Like, oh, I feel awkward, so let me keep talking. That relieves the tension and it robs the client of the opportunity to really lean into this thing that they want. So we just present the invitation and then we let the other person respond.
I love that.
And so I usually will have just a cup of water, right? So I'd like to invite you to become a client, and then gulp, 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 just so I can't talk, because it is, you
That's
will
our
feel
natural
tension.
inclination.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think even in any kind of marketing that we do, that tends to be what we do, right? We just start to over explain and start to say all the words and all the things, because we can't just put it out into the universe and just stop for a second and watch what happens. So I love that. And I also think it allows someone, maybe in that kind of conversation, you are feeling tension. And so for you to over talk feels comfortable, but for the person who's listening, I think it feels more comfortable to be given some space to then respond and say something instead of feeling a little almost like railroaded. Totally.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
And so, if people are feeling some fear, I just even like listening to us talk about this, like thinking of doing this, let's play out the worst case scenario, because I think that like, if we can understand what the worst case scenario is and be okay with it, then we're more likely to go ahead and do it, because we've like played it out in our head. So what's the worst that can happen? Someone's going to say no right off the bat. Like, tell me, what would be your like worst case scenario in this circumstance?
Okay. So to my knowledge, this has never happened, but in my imagination, the worst case scenario would be You said this was a free session. I can't believe you just sold to me. I'm going to tell your friend who recommended you that you just railroaded me.
Right.
So again, I just got sweaty. I've never, ever, and I've mentored many coaches through this process. I've never heard that happen, but that is the worst case scenario, right? So how would I respond to that? I would say, oh, I really hear that you weren't expecting this invitation, and I want to apologize for any miscommunication. I was certain to explain that at the beginning, but I take ownership over the fact that somehow our wires got crossed. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be mad for another like 40 minutes, and then they will move on to something else.
Exactly.
So, but the actual worst thing that usually happens is I can't afford it, or no, it doesn't really feel like it's for me. And that's the whole point of this process, because it helps us get better at how to present the invitation, right? So, oh, okay, someone said it isn't for them yet. We just spent an hour coaching and it's completely for them. So where am I not communicating the value? We get to get better at that, right? So that's the worst thing that will happen is you will get more comfortable presenting your offer.
Yeah. And then when it does come time to crafting a course offer or some sort of group program, think of how much clarity you're going to have around the marketing messaging and the promise of your course.
Right. Well, and you get to use all of these clients, you get to use their words in your marketing, because you're spending an hour with them hearing about what they want and where they struggle. Mm-hmm. I'll also say another hidden value of this process is non-ideal clients will sneak in. You will absolutely have a discovery session with someone who you do not want to present an offer to at the end. Don't, right? If it doesn't feel aligned. But that for me is often even more valuable, because it shows me how not to price my offering or what not to lean into, because it brings in the wrong people, or I don't want to say the wrong people, but people who won't really benefit from your work. Right. So,
and when you're coaching people through this, Alice, and they are newer coaches, in terms of like what they're selling at the end of this call, what is it that you recommend from a package perspective?
Okay. I cannot stand the package deal.
Okay.
For newer coaches, especially, and here's why. Most newer coaches are afraid of losing clients. So they will and they've been told you put a year-long package together, like a 10K cuckoo bananas year-long commitment that no one's going to say yes to because they just met you, right? But there's this fear of losing clients. So they try to put this super structured package together. That's just inserting obstacles. I've been a coach for 20 years. Here's what I can tell you. When it's working for your client, they don't want to leave. I have some clients who I've been coaching privately for 7 years, and we just keep growing and getting better and better results. So rather than presenting, all right, it's 3 months and like this, you've just planted the seed that they're going to have a transformation in 3 months and then they're done. Yeah. So by putting a package together, you are implying that there is an end to this coaching relationship when there doesn't need to be. Right. So what I recommend is letting it be super easy. I recommend presenting a chocolate or vanilla option. So people, instead of thinking, am I going to hire them or not? It's how do I want to hire them? Right. So it might be, I work with clients either weekly or twice a month. We're going to keep working together for as long as you're getting results. That typically lasts at least 3 months, but I know clients who have worked with coaches for 7 years, right? So what feels better for you? Do you need extra support with weekly sessions, or would you like to meet once a month? And then just keep it simple, everybody. You put your clients on an automatic monthly auto pay, so you never have to have those re-enrollment conversations. You never have to sell again. If it's working, they'll stay. And if it's not, both of you will want it to end.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Would you like to meet weekly, or does bi-weekly feel better for you?
right? And now I'm just thinking about that instead of, ooh, do I want this or do I not want this?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's so good. And on the call, here's another polarizing question. Are you getting people to pay on the call?
Yes.
Okay.
And people have agency. So here's what that looks like to me. So I invite you in, right? And you say, I'd like to meet twice a month. I say, great. Let's schedule our first appointment. So what a lot of coaches do then is say, great, I'm going to send you a link to schedule. I'm going to send you all of this work.
Right.
The client gets overwhelmed. It's our job to hold a container for them.
Right.
So this is different from high pressure sales, forcing people to pay. We're just providing an excellent coaching container. So step one, when they say yes, is get that first appointment on the calendar right then and there. Once that appointment is set, say, okay, is your email in front of you? I'm going to send you a link, like whether it's a PayPal link or however you have people pay, I'm going to send you a link right now. And then we don't say anything. If the client does not want to pay right now because they have to check with their partner or move money around or just pray about it, right? There's no pressure, but we just talk about what's happening, right? So here's the link, and they might say, oh, I wasn't ready to do that today. I'm going to have to go speak with my spouse. And I say, great, I totally support that. I want you to feel good about this decision. I also know how easy it is to back away from the things we want when we have time to second guess ourselves. So how are you feeling about following through on this commitment? Right? And they'll say yes or no, or right. And then you may have to use some more coaching skills to move them through that process. But where I end it is, okay, so you're going to go and talk with your partner. It's Tuesday. I will look for the confirmation from you by tomorrow morning. And if I don't hear from you, I will circle back. How does that feel? Yeah. So we just we give the client the opportunity to pay. And if they are choosing not to pay on the call, we get really clear on the next steps and the timing around the next steps.
Yeah. Love that. Okay, Dallas, this has been so good. Tell people, I know you have an incredible sort of like lead magnet freebie extra sort of thing that aligns with this conversation really well. So people can take what they've learned here and put it into practice. So can you tell folks what it is and where to find it?
Yeah, I have a roadmap. It's called Flawless Free Sessions, and it expands on what I highlighted today around how to structure the sales conversation so that the worst thing in the world never happens because you've set that sale up in the beginning, and how to coach without overcoaching in those sales conversations. So it's flawlessfreesessions.com, and you can access the roadmap right away.
Amazing. And where can people find you, like on social, and tell them you have a podcast? So tell them what that's called. Give them all the things.
Yeah, I have a podcast. It's called the Six Figure Coach Podcast. And I just launched a new Instagram account. And so you can find me at Dallas Travers Biz Mentor.
Okay. Perfect. We'll make sure that that's all linked up in the show notes. Yay. Dallas, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I so appreciate it. For everybody who's listening, if there was something in today's episode that you feel was like a real aha moment or a light bulb went off, I know Dallas and I would love to hear about it. So snap a pic or let us know what it is on Instagram. Make sure to tag us, leave a comment or review on this episode, and we would just love to hear from you.
Yes.
Thanks again, Dallas.
Thank you.